Chris, long time no see, my friend. It's so good to be back in touch and see your face here on a screen. So sorry we can't do this in person. We'd love to chat to you in person. How are you? How are things going? Tell us about the transition from Italy to Saudi, where you are now.
Yes, no, pleasure to connect again. And yes, it's all change again. I think no, it reminds me when I first moved to Rome, and that was very last minute towards the end of the window. And then this is kind of like similar, but no, settling really well. Everyone's been sort of so kind and friendly, and just found a house. So soon the family will be coming over, and then I can really get settled in and start exploring the area a lot more. But no, so far so good.
Yeah, I guess there's just so many elements to it, right? All the logistical things, and then just getting used to a new country and languages and, people and culture, all sorts of areas, which I personally find really fascinating. But in terms of football, what's the biggest difference between, the football you were playing at Roma and now the football you're playing in the Saudi Pro League?
I think at the minute we've only had a few games, but I think a lot of it's about getting used to the new coach in terms of what he demands. And when I joined, we also had maybe five or six other new players come in, and a lot of the team has changed from last season. So I think we're really figuring out each other's strengths and the way they want to play. But no, it's been really interesting so far. I think, especially with each team that we almost play, has got so many different internationals and also local players that you're almost learning lots of new things, which is always exciting for me because it's a new challenge every week, really.
I was going to say, I bet you that suits you down to the ground, because you're the sort of person I would imagine that gets excited about taking on something like this rather than, oh, new coach, nervous, not sure if his style of play will suit my style of play. But actually, blank canvas, I guess you're the sort of person who'll just go, right then, what are we doing? What can I learn here?
Definitely. No, and I think, and especially in terms of when I spoke to the manager prior to coming, he was someone who really wanted me to take a leadership on the pitch and off the pitch in terms of leading the club as well. So that was almost another added boost in terms of coming in and really taking on that mantle. And I think especially when I transitioned to Rome, obviously it was new country, new language, everything was new, that it's almost, yeah, I've always lived with no regrets. And this is another one where the career is very short. So yeah, why not?
Do you still keep an eye out for Roma, for Man United, for Fulham, to see how they're getting on?
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm football mad anyway. So I always found when I was at Rome actually that the big games for United tended to be the same time, which was always a little bit frustrating. But like,
Oh no.
for some reason that always happened. But like, for example, this weekend I was watching the United Brentford game. I watched the Roma Inter game. So yeah, whenever I get the chance, I'm always watching, because those clubs are a huge part of my life, of my career, and they will be with me long during my career and after my career. So yeah, always a joy to watch them and cheer them on.
You've got to make sure that where you are in Saudi, you can just sort out the AV, right? That's the first thing. You get
Yeah,
into your house, whatever. It's like, right, I need my screens. Need to watch
yeah,
United, need to watch
exactly,
Roma. Just make sure we can get the priorities straight here.
exactly.
Listen, we'll dive deep into supporting Pat Summit in a bit, but one of the sort of central pillars is this idea of planetary health for human health, right? How much of a link is there between those two things? What you've seen, particularly in your role as an athlete, Chris?
Yeah, for me, I think they are essentially linked for me, and I think the only difference maybe that we see is maybe that linking, changing a mindset. Like, for example, I would say our daily healthy choices for our personal health is the same as the planet health, because our health is shaped by the environment. For example, like the clean air, the water, the healthy food choices. Therefore, like, if the planet's not healthy, we can't be healthy, and that affects our performance. So for me, I think they are essentially linked, and I think people are starting to see that, and I think that is the case.
And do you know what? I think people are starting to see it in different ways, right? So you've got obviously the health of the athlete, right?
Mm.
If you're, I don't know, a marathon runner like Eliud Kipchoge and you're running somewhere like, New Delhi, right? I mean, one of the most polluted cities on earth, then how can you expect Eliud to be in his, best condition to perform the best? If Lionel Messi is playing extreme heat in Miami or whatever, how can you expect Messi to be peak Messi, you know, if he's playing in extreme conditions? And then what occurs to me is it affects the spectacle, right? The fans who come to that ground or who go to that race, that marathon, they will be wanting to see the best of the best. But if the conditions don't allow because they're too extreme or they're too polluted, then they get to see maybe a 70% Messi. Now, look, 70% Messi, I'll take every day of the week. I think we all would, right? He'd still make our starting 11. But even so, and then go one step further, affects the spectacle, affects the product, right? And then, you know, that affects the money. So I think, you know, you can go down that funnel, you can explore that. And then suddenly that's when I think, you know, the other people in the game, like your CEOs, your presidents, then they start taking an interest, right? Because they're like, hang on a minute, the value of what I've got here is lower because it's being affected. You know, what do you make of that?
100%. No, and I think quite often, I think when it starts to affect, like you say, the CEOs and the fans and the spectacle, and you can see that everything's not at full efficiency, full maximum efficiency, I think that's when people start to take note, where before they might have thought, oh, it's okay, it's getting a little bit hotter, or this is a little bit of a change, but that's okay. But in the end, you can't outrun that. And I think that's what hopefully people start to realize.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think whichever way you connect with this, however the penny drops for you, we're here for you when you're ready, kind of thing, right? You and me, Chris, you know, there's people who are on their journey and, you know, they get there in different ways. Let's talk about your journey, because I have to say, it's been such a journey for you in sustainability, including establishing For Good Global. And I'm quoting this direct from your website, which backs ambitious founders and helps launch and grow early stage planet-friendly businesses. All right, flesh that out for us. Tell us a bit more.
Yes, so this was very much a passion driver for me, and that was the main thing. In terms of quite a number of years ago, I was very inspired by a lot of companies that were doing really good, whether that was a nice trainer, for example, or a certain material, or whatever the product was. And I was personally using it, and I felt a passion to speak to the owner, to reach out, and in that way we ended up connecting. And then that's when I started to make a few investments, and essentially I had quite a few other athletes reaching out to me because some of those investments were becoming sort of more public. And then that was when, I guess, For Good was born, because I felt there was a need for be able to connect other like-minded people together, especially people that could also help make a difference sort of publicly as well. And yeah, it essentially does exactly what it says on the tin in terms of backs brands that are for good. And I think one of those is in terms of bringing all the athletes together, but also spend, I guess, many months in terms of finding the best sustainability VCs globally and establishing sort of relationships with them, so that when us athletes all come together and we can see the different opportunities, that it's coming from the best in class. And yeah, that's where it was essentially born from, and it's just grown and grown and grown from there. And it's something that I'm really proud of and continue to try and work for.
And it should be. I mean, I like the idea, as you say, it does what it says on the tin. You need to have a good name. You don't explain to people in several sentences what something does. Then maybe you haven't got the right name, but I think it does. You can sense, okay, right, this is something that's got purpose behind it. And you've been that conduit, you know, between the best in class VCs in this space and cool projects that just need that leg up. And also, you know, we've got another partner at Sport Impact Summit, Reflow, and they've managed to attract an athlete in Harry Kane. And Harry Kane has seen this, and he's now involved as an investor as well. So I think it just goes to show, you know, you can sort of have it the other way around, where you're the brand, and then you can bring in the athlete. The athlete gets so infused by what they see, and they, you know, they love it, you know, and they really roll with it, that then, you know, suddenly it grows and grows. And then Harry Kane's profile, as you can imagine, you know, the English team, Spurs, Bayern Munich, you know, then that opens doors like you know, you could never believe before. So yeah, it's happening. It really is happening.
That's the best way, because it's so authentic when, like you say, Harry comes in, he's passionate about it, and that's what we try to get in terms of matching our athletes with brands, with their passions in terms of what they're looking for. And then essentially it just makes even more of an impact when you can see that the athlete is not just the normal commercial where you just hold something up and you do it because it's just what you have to do, but this is because what they want to do and in their own time, which I think shows even more when yeah, when you see that relationship in public.
But you can see it, right? You can tell if it's authentic
Yes,
or not. I
100%.
mean, if it is that thing where, all right, tell me what I've got to do, hold it this way, fine. And what do I say again? And yeah, okay, smile at
Yeah,
the camera. Like, I think these days, like, social media particularly is so bare to the bones with the see, things that you can tell
yeah,
pretty much
100,
when someone is just following a script or when
yeah,
someone really believes it, like you do with your products, like Harry does with Reflow. And of course, related to Fork Global, the Players Fund. So that's
yes,
the next phase, isn't it? You've been teaming up with the likes of Ben Stokes, the England Test captain, Stuart Broad, legendary fast bowler for England, Hector Bellerin, who, if you're in sustainability, and if you don't know Hector Bellerin, well, you should know. he's such an incredible force. So how much of a step change has that been, Chris, and what has it helped enable?
yes. So For Good is a founding partner of that, and I think that was almost, I guess, the next step in terms of, for example, we have the Players Fund, which has its own thesis in terms of what it invests in. But then there's also the launch, for example, coming of the Players Pathway, which offers investment opportunities to athletes who aren't quite ready to invest in the fund. And for example, all of For Good deals will now be facilitated by the Players Pathway. And I think it was almost like having another extension of the network and combining the networks, because the Players Fund network was huge in terms of for that thesis. And then obviously we're combining it with the For Good network. And then we have the Players Fund, which has its own thesis. And we're also going to have the Players Pathway, which is going to have many different sectors. It's almost combining that and yeah, really, really making an impact. And I would also say one of the other aspects of also me wanting to be a part of the players was the education side and the access side. So for example, it's great obviously making these investments into brands that are doing good, but for example, the education side is something that I feel is, I guess, lacking in some ways in terms of being able to sort of educate and empower athletes, not only in the venture space, but also in terms of from their day to day, in terms of a lot of them are coming into, for example, a lot of money, a lot of eyes on them in a moment where it can just happen like that, like what I've been through. So, for example, we partnered with a few charities. One of them switched to Play, where we're sort of aiming to sort of provide comprehensive support and resources to athletes at the start of their career and also beyond their career, which I think which was another big draw when I spoke to Fergus and Rory when we sort of started this conversation a long time ago. So yeah, it felt like a natural fit, and yeah, really proud of
It
building
is a
that.
natural fit. Now you've explained it, I totally see it. And the thing is that it's not just collecting another big name and famous athlete, or let's just grow this in terms of big names in profile. It's what your value is and what you're adding because of For Good Global and the way you see it in your vision. I think I can totally see that because it's really mutually beneficial, I feel. The education piece is key, my goodness. I think, especially with athletes coming into this space, working out what else they want to do in their lives, decide compete at the highest level, giving them some guidance is so crucial, whether it be in investing, whether it be in sustainability. I'm meeting up with someone soon, can't say who, but they are significant in the women's game, let's put it that way, as a player. And they are interested in this topic. And they've got, let's say at this point, this much interest. And my goal is to work with that and grow it to this much interest. So, you can sort of say, right, we'll gently take you on the journey. What are the original touch points? How can we infuse you with those, build up the confidence, and then move it along so that you explore other areas? Very much like you've done, Chris, in your career. You sort of like, learn through a little bit of osmosis, a little bit of that direct. And I think, then you're really getting into an interesting area. But that's all about education. That's all about guidance. And it's really exciting. I think, when you get someone who's in the space who's showing that interest, and then you see them grow, I think it's a bit like seeing a young player. And then starting to express themselves on the pitch, and then starting to really be the best version of themselves because you're helping them do that. I think it must be one of the most rewarding things. On the investment side, how much appetite is there for investors to to sort of back those businesses that are genuinely purpose driven, you know, that are mindful of how they tread on the planet?
Yeah, for me, I think it's in a super exciting sector where I think you can combine, I guess, two things in terms of having that real impact potential. And I think that's really appealing to people because it's almost like you can have hopefully the success of the investment, but if you can have that impact, I mean, combined, I mean, it just elevates it to a whole new level. And I think people obviously who maybe aren't who are working there towards the impact side of things, but if they can see, okay, this is going to be a success, and at the same time, I see this impact that's having with all of our people who are buying the product or whatever it is. I think that just gets everybody on board immediately. And there is a lot of, I guess, greenwashing, but I think this is where I guess really like for good and the players try to help I guess the athletes in terms of having off the table sort of deals, but having more robust sort of due diligence than most. And I think that's where, especially the time with For Good, where we spent really building those relationships and continue to build those relationships with the best in class, and also where the players will hopefully give all the athletes, I guess, an advantage in terms of not having to scour absolutely obviously they do their own due diligence, but it's almost giving them the best that we can give, and then let them obviously do their own due diligence and before stepping forward.
That piece of mind is crucial, isn't it? I think, you know, just so you know, right, this is definitely going in the right place. You know, this isn't some sort of scam. You know, I know that this is real impact rather than someone, you know, claiming there's something that they're not. There's that greenwashing, you know, worry, and you know, you're always guarding against that. And in a world of such misinformation and disinformation, which is done deliberately, I think, you know, everyone is always just there, you know, they're there wondering, okay, how much can I trust this? But if you've got a robust system, if you've got people who are good in this, you can guide them, then, you know, that's
I feel like that's what we offer. And I guess also offering them the case studies and their history to see, look, this is what they've done, this is what they're doing. Try to give them as much of a picture as possible for them to then go to their own teams and to do their own, obviously check it out. But yeah, we're trying to give as much information as possible to the people who are hopefully the best connected, and they will see the same as well.
Let's talk a little bit about Sport Impact Summit, because you are an impact champion and we're delighted to have you on board. It's going to be mega. What attracted you to it in the first place, Chris?
I guess what attracted me to it was, I guess it builds on the work that I'm sort of doing it For Good and the players in terms of bringing industry leaders and athletes together, which is where I've seen a passion for a little while, and to be able to connect and be an impact champion is almost it just fit. It was just the right fit in terms of being able to meet new industries and especially some of the people that are going to be attending the event. I think it's just going to be another eye opener for me to be able to meet like-minded people.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's the leaders, it's the people who can make the difference, who have that authority, have that decision-making, you know, power and agency, and athletes who provide the inspiration. I mean, Hannah Mills OBE, let's give her full title. Yes, because she has been recognized in that sense, and she is Britain's most decorated female Olympic sailor. So she's pretty damn good at what she does, but also in the sustainability space, an incredible driving force. I mean, having those people around you, and then the leaders in business and in science, I mean, that must be the thing, right? Getting them all together in the same room, it's critical, it's crucial.
100%. And I think that mass participation from people who want to contribute to doing good things, I think is only good things can come from that. And I think that's the beauty, where you're able to, and especially the so many different industries as well, which I think is really key in terms of so many different things combining, and then them speaking and then thinking, oh, there's a link there, and just learning about new things. I think is having that mass participation for me is key.
And is this also for you guys exciting because these are new markets? You know, you leave yourself, you always have to, I always think, someone told me, you've got to leave yourself 5% of your time just to the unexpected, to just open yourself up to what might come your way, Just give yourself that little bit of breathing space. I think it's the sort of place where you for sure get at least 5, 10, 15% of that, you know, because you never know who you might bump into. Is that another of the elements that's exciting?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, yeah, when you can go to an event such as this and you don't know everybody who's going, you see people who are lined up, you see people on the Instagram, you see people online, and you hear about them, you think, oh, that's interesting. And then you can't wait to meet certain people. And then, yeah, like you say, I'm sure that'll be 15, 20, 25% in terms of some of the new things that you hear, the things that make you think in terms of, and the new relationships that will hopefully build from then to who knows where after it. I think, yeah, it's really exciting.
That's what I love. So you never know where that will go, right? It could be just a friendship, or it could be, you know, a nice relationship that, you know, is sort of in the short term, or it could be the best discovery you've ever made. Definitely. And take you to new levels with what you're doing, and it's mutually beneficial for all, you know, for all parties involved. And yeah, well, I noticed you mentioned about the Instagram and stuff. I mean, most of the time, so because I'm sort of regular in touch with the guys, I kind of know who or what might be coming, but every so often they're like, oh, hang on, I don't know about this one. Oh my goodness, is that happening? And you know, then suddenly you get a bit of momentum, and that really sort of that ripple effect. It's really quite addictive. It's quite addictive actually. I'm kind of like scrolling. Have I missed anything? I mean, listen, we have this sort of mantra, hashtag if you like, a mantra which has changed the score. We quite like it, obviously the sporting metaphor, but it's this need to get on the pitch and change things. You know, be that super sub, be that person who makes an impact. So change the score. So Chris, what is the biggest thing that we all need to do to change the score in terms of moving genuinely, assertively towards a healthier, more sustainable world?
I think for me, I think being a role model for simple changes for good. I think for example, that also needs obviously mass participation, but down to even, for example, I think when people think about a change, it's almost they think of the big organization, the industry leaders who need to change, and that is an element of it. But I think it comes down to even, for example, you doing something that's influencing your younger brother or sister, whether that's a small act, or even if you're on the street, or and you do something, and somebody that you don't even know witnesses you do something, they're like, oh, that was nice of them to do that. And I think these small things, I think, can make a real difference, because you never know who you're impacting, your own family, people who are not even watching. And I think that's where we can get mass participation, where people can do these little things and think, you don't know who's watching, but it's making a difference. I think if we can get that on a mass participation where people are doing that, and I see that day to day, I think that's where we can really make a change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's that, you know, that local impact where you know you're making a change. You can see that people are responding to it. You can see it's a positive change. It makes a difference. But then, you know, especially along with athletes who have huge, as you know, profile, reach, influence, and inspiring that change. It's such a such an amazing lever to be able to pull. If you're an athlete, if you do it well, if you do it authentically, you really natively inhabit that, then I think that is so powerful. And also I think, you know, this whole idea of, you know, oh, what can I do? I'm just little old me. Yeah, said, you know, 8 billion people. So, you know, imagine if, you know, everyone just kind of like gets on board with it, then we're really talking, you know, we can find some solutions here. Listen, as always, Chris, I mean, we're so aligned. It's such a reaffirming experience chatting with you. It's always so lovely. And, you know, I think you always teach me something every time as well, which is cool. So thank you so much for the conversation. It's always brilliant. And it's such a, you know, a thrill to have you on board. Let's keep chatting and, you know, enjoy the build up to Sport Impact Summit, all the announcements and all the good things that are to come. Thank you again for your time.